If you've already handled an undermining moment once and it still keeps happening, that's usually when managers start questioning themselves. Am I being too soft? Am I overreacting? Will they always challenge me in public? So, today I want to talk about what to do when undermining becomes a pattern. Because at that point, this isn't really about the meeting anymore. It's about clarity, accountability, and protecting your role as the leader. I'm sharing this because this was one of the hardest transitions for me as a manager. And I've seen it be hard for other managers too, especially thoughtful ones who genuinely want to be fair. So let's jump into it. Here's why this situation gets tricky. Most managers can handle one awkward moment, but what's harder is realizing the same employee keeps doing it. Now, you may know who I'm talking about. The one who makes small comments or side remarks, or they ask questions framed as concerns. Nothing dramatic, just consistent enough to change the tone of the room. And because it doesn't look bad enough, it's easy to minimize. Now, what I want you to know is when you don't address undermining behavior, it quietly hurts your credibility over time. A few years ago, I worked with a manager who actually handled the first situation really well. He stayed calm, he redirected the conversation, and he didn't escalate it. But over the next few weeks, the same employee kept challenging decisions, and it was mostly in group settings. Not aggressively, just enough to keep putting him on defense, and of course, the team was watching to see how he was going to respond. Eventually, he said to me, I feel like I'm leading, but I don't feel like I'm in control anymore. And I thought to myself, that's the moment this stops being about confidence and starts being about clarity. So here's how I want you to think about this. When undermining becomes a pattern, it's no longer about how the employee communicates. It's about what's being tolerated. And what you tolerate is what your team will respond to. Addressing this isn't about being harsh. It's about being clear before the behavior becomes normalized. Because when you don't do anything or say anything, you are silently approving the behavior. So here's what to do the next time you're in a situation where an employee continues to undermine you. The first step is to name the pattern privately. This conversation doesn't happen in public. It happens one-on-one. And you need to be calm and direct. A pro tip here is don't have the conversation if you're emotional or upset. You need to be in control of how you respond to the behavior in a calm and collected way. If you're upset or emotional in the moment, take some time to cool off before you have the conversation. So here's an example of what you can say to them. Hey, John, I've noticed a pattern where decisions are being challenged in group settings. I want to talk about how that's landing. The key here is you're not accusing him. There's no emotional dump. You're just naming what you're seeing. The next step is to explain the impact. This is where many managers stop short. The goal here is to connect the behavior to the impact. So, back to John. When decisions are challenged publicly, it creates confusion for the team and it puts me in a position where leadership feels unclear. The key here is this isn't about ego. It's about clarity for everyone. Now, the third step is to set the expectation going forward. This is where you set the boundary and it needs to be explicit. So back to the John example, if there are any concerns or disagreements, I'm open to those, but they need to be raised privately first. Now, after you say that, pause and let it land. This part may feel awkward at first, but stay steady and firm. And the last step is to be consistent. This is the part that actually makes this work. If the behavior shows up again, you don't re-explain everything. You just reference the conversation. You can say, John, we talked about this, or let's take that offline. This consistency is what resets the dynamic. This approach removes ambiguity, it protects the team from mixed signals, and it reinforces that leadership has structure. Something that I've learned over the years is most employees don't want chaos. They want clarity, even if they push back at first. Now, let's talk about what not to do. What I've seen backfire here is when managers hope it resolves itself, or over accommodate, or avoid the conversation to keep the peace. Why this doesn't work over time is because teams learn what's allowed by what goes unaddressed. This goes back to the silent approval we talked about earlier. Leadership gets uncomfortable right before it gets clearer, and learning how to handle moments like this is part of growing in the role. If you want more real practical advice on how to lead with confidence, that's what I focus on here, so consider subscribing. Hope this helps, and see you in the next one.